Hey friends, my name is Jason Clemens, and this is episode 21 of our Big Book study. Um, we're going to begin reading in our basic textbook on page 64, the third paragraph. It begins with resentment. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From its stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up. On our grudge list, we set opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations which had been interfered with? We were usually as definite as this example. I'll read them in columns. I'm resentful at Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, my employer, my wife. The cause, his attention to my wife. Told my wife of my mistress, Brown may get my job at the office. She's a nut. She snubbed me. She committed her husband for drinking. He's my friend. She's a gossip. Unreasonable, unjust, overbearing, threatens to fire me for drinking and padding my expense account. Misunderstands and nags, likes Brown, wants house put in her name. Affects my sex relations, self-esteem, fear, sex relations, self-esteem, fear, security, self-esteem, fear, personal relationship, self-esteem, fear, self-esteem, fear, security, pride, personal sex relations, security, fear. Let's turn to the study portion. Good morning, everyone. We're at paragraph 3 on page 64. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. Again, we see it isn't necessarily booze that destroys us, but resentment. Resentment was a word that I was unfamiliar with when I came to AA. It means to re-feel old feelings. An example of resentment is when we run into someone who said something nasty to us 6 months ago. If we seethe with anger as if the statement was made to us this morning, we have resentment. Alcoholics seem to store all this stuff within, and it makes for a disconcerting individual. Step 4 is where we begin to deal with these resentments by putting them down on paper. This is the first of our 4 lists we will make in connection with step 4. In dealing with resentments, we set them down on paper. We listed people, institutions, perhaps the police or the DMV, or principles, the 10 Commandments, etc., with whom we were angry. We begin our 4th step by writing out a list of resentments. Our list will consist of 5 columns. On the left-hand column, we list all of the resentments first. We'll continue with the other 4 columns later once we have written out the first column list. We think back over our lives and think about how we would feel if we ran into Mr. or Mrs. Blank. If our 2nd grade teacher, Miss Crabtree, called us lazy or stupid in front of the class and we were ashamed of it, and we begin to experience old anger when thinking of her, we write her name down. If my lazy-ass brother dropped by, would I resent his presence? My boss, do I resent her? My ex-wife? My mother? The police? College professors? Drill sergeant? The auto mechanic who ripped me off? My neighbor? The guy who made a pass at my wife? And what about God? Do I resent him? Once we are done listing everyone, we will begin filling out the next column, the cause. Next to each name, we list what they did to cause me to become angry. We move from the top of the list to the bottom and write out the cause for each resentment. Page 65 is a great place for tips. We'll go through the last 3 columns in our next post. Have a great day.